this week we're going to continue looking at logo design and talk about some of the things that make a logo a successful design. And we'll also continue to talk about the process. So we're at this stage now where you guys are finished with your sketches, you've researched your company, you've come up with your adjectives, and now you're going to be analyzing your sketches and thinking about what would be the best solution for my company. And so let's just kind of talk about what are some things you should think about as you sort of decide this. So a logo is a graphic representation. We learned this last week, but I'll just say it again, that identifies a company, product, or brand. It's sometimes referred to as an emblem or mark. A logo can be typographic, pictorial, or abstract. A logo design can be divided into 3 distinct steps. So you finish the first step and you're kind of going into the second step, which is to create your grayscale roughs. And so let's look at a few logos here. So this is the Beats logo, and it's a very simple design, but it gets the idea of headphones across, and it communicates that B for Beats. It's recognizable. The red and white make it bright and easy to pair with other things for their marketing. And so this is a great example of a simple design that really stands out and is versatile for a company and communicates the idea of the product. Domino's Pizza. This logo has kind of an interesting history. It was started by 2 brothers in Michigan, and originally it was just a 3-location business when they designed this logo. And so they were planning on adding more dots each time a location opened, but obviously it expanded into this huge chain, so that didn't happen. The red and blue, they wanted really bright contrasting colors so it would catch people's eye. And why it's successful? Well, one reason we know it's successful is because they have not significantly changed their logo over the years. This is the current rendition of the logo. You can see that they've simplified it a little bit. They took out the text, the pizza tagline, because actually the business started to branch out and serve other types of food, so they didn't want to be just tied to pizza. But this simple logo really kind of stood the test of time. Hewlett-Packard, there's an acronym that we can talk about. It's called KISS in design, and it stands for Keep It Simple, Stupid. So Hewlett-Packard is a great example of this. There's a unique font, and they just circled it and framed it with this circular shape. Why use a circle? Circles have no beginning or end. They're a very powerful symbol in design, and I will send you a link to a site that kind of talks about the significance of shapes: circles, squares, rectangles, triangles. And the significance of a circle is that it can suggest familiar objects such as wheels, balls. It can make us feel or suggest well-roundedness and completeness. There's sort of a freedom with circles. They can roll, or we can conceptualize them rolling. Circles protect, they endure, they confine what's within and keep things out. They offer safety and connection. They can also suggest community, integrity, and perfection. And so all these positive things with circles make it kind of a good solution for a lot of logo designs. And they also look great when you start to carve out negative shapes within them. So that's just a second thing. So simple logos are often easily recognized, memorable, and effective at conveying the requirements of the client. So this is the second rendition of the HP logo. This came out in 2016, and you see they've simplified it even more. And this is getting a lot of hype on design blogs. Designers love this logo. And it was featured in one of their laptops. I think it was the HP Spectre. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. And they lost the circle in this design, but they actually simplified and kind of abstracted the H and the P a little bit more. So a logo should be memorable. A logo should capture your attention, and an effective logo design should be memorable, and this is achieved by having a simple yet appropriate logo. Here's another example of just a simple logo that's actually quite memorable. Notice how the pink is paired with the gray. So the pink actually doesn't overwhelm, but it suggests vitality and energy. but it's not overwhelming the design at all. So as you start to come into color, which we're going to talk about later, I want you to keep that idea of simplicity in your mind. If you overwhelm with color, you can make your design look chaotic and it can be less effective. Starbucks has kind of an interesting history. This design came about around 1971, and Starbucks was already established in Seattle, and it was the founders and the designer, the design team they were using, wanted to capture the seafaring history of coffee and Seattle's strong seaport roots. And there was a lot of kind of poring over old marine books, and they ended up finding this 16th century Norse woodcut of a twin-tailed mermaid or siren. And they all felt there was just something about her, kind of a seductive mystery, mixed with a nautical theme. And that's kind of what they were looking for, exactly what they were looking for. So this symbol was born, and we have now recognized this siren whenever we're craving coffee or other things that Starbucks markets. So you can see the newest rendition of the Starbucks logo lost the text, and part of that reason is Starbucks is marketing more foods, and they're not just a coffee shop anymore. They have a lot more to offer. That's what they want to brand themselves, or open up their branding a little bit to include other things. PlayStation is a great logo. When PlayStation brand was being conceptualized in 1994, more than 36 logo concepts were presented for final selection. And the iconic PlayStation logo kind of depicts these 4 bright colors. And the designer, his name is, he's a Japanese designer, and his name is Manabu Sakamoto, probably pronounced wrong, thought these particular colors used in the logo symbolized joy, passion, and excellence, which were the adjectives that the PlayStation team really wanted to promote. And he was kind of a well-known designer. He had designed a few other logos for Sony. And he also created this custom typeface that they include in other ways in their branding. And this PlayStation logo is regarded as one of the most instantly recognizable and memorable logos in the gaming industry. And it looks good in just simple black and white. And we'll talk about this more, but a logo has to be able to look good in gray. And as you sketch, think about color, but you're not actually going to apply color until after you come up with a really strong grayscale solution. So all of the logos featured here are memorable, and they're simple as well, and they look good just as simple grayscale designs. World Wildlife Foundation, I really like how this logo uses the negative space. If you notice the rendering of the black, and then the white is just kind of a cutout of the face and part of the body, and then it pairs beautifully with their tagline, WWF. Adidas, the Adidas logo was designed with the idea that these 3 lines would represent a mountain, and the mountain would represent the obstacles that people need to overcome to become fit using the Adidas product. NBC, this was actually owned by RCA when this logo was designed. But at the time, everybody was watching black and white television. Color was kind of a new phenomenon, and they were trying to get people to get rid of their black and white televisions and buy new color televisions. And so they created this colorful logo to kind of promote all the beautiful colors that were coming out with the new technology and what TV could be, the possibility of TV in color. Mobile, really the importance of the logo is its colors, I think. The red is a strong color. It represents strength, and blue represents faithfulness. And so pairing these two together can be good for a company like Mobile to kind of represent these two attributes. Amazon, so that arrow is kind of has a double meaning. So it kind of looks like a smiley face, and Amazon's main mission, or the thing they associate as their main mission, is to make their customers happy, so that's appropriate. But notice how the arrow is pointing from the A to the Z. This represents the fact that Amazon has a large variety of items for sale from A to Z. So Amazon sells everything, and that arrow pointing from A to Z is supposed to signify that. So when you're thinking about a logo or when you're making a design decision, you really want to not go by whatever's trendy at the moment. You want to pick a logo that's going to transcend and be timeless, especially if a company grows or changes. You want the logo to be able to do that. So trends come and go, but brand identity needs to have some longevity for it to be successful. And it should be able to work across a variety of mediums and applications, and the logo should be functional, and it should communicate those goals. Often logos are created, or almost always, they're created in vector programs like Illustrator, and this ensures that they can be scaled to any size, and it can easily transcend from one platform to the other. And one of the things that's very important, and I talked about this earlier, is that you start with black and white. So that's so important because you have to focus on the concept and shape rather than the color, because color can be extremely subjective. And if you work first in black and white, you ensure that the logo will look good in its simplest form. And because color is so subjective and emotional, this can distract from the overall design. Say if you saw your logo in all red, that color might be the first thing that you respond to and not the composition of the design elements. And you have to respond to those design elements to ensure that the symbol is actually successful, not just the attractiveness of the color. And a good way to work is you first get your client to sign off on the grayscale designs, which is what you're doing this week. You're developing your grayscale logos. You get them excited about the final grayscale solution. Then you do a lot of color experimentation after that. Okay, some more logos that look really good in grayscale. And then once color is applied, they look even better, but they still are successful as symbols in gray. The other thing is, going back a little bit, the color is expensive. And so we want to keep a logo design simple, but also from a financial perspective, especially if you're working with a small company, the more colors used, the more expensive it will be for the business over the long term to print their design. So often, that it might be a financial consideration how many colors you use in the design. So then appropriate. How you position the logo should be appropriate for its intended purpose. For example, if you're designing a logo for a children's store, it would be appropriate to use a childish font, color scheme, but this would not at all be appropriate if you're designing for a law firm. And it's also important to state that a logo doesn't need to show what a business sells or offers as a service. For example, car logos don't need to show cars, computer logos don't need to show computers, and the Harley-Davidson logo isn't a motorcycle, nor is the Nokia logo a mobile phone. So a logo is purely for identification, and there was a kind of an assessment done of the 50 brands of logos, and 94% of them did not have a visual representation of the product. They had an abstracted symbol, a different symbol, or it was a typographic design, or a combo mark with an abstracted symbol. So really thinking about that, you don't have to, like a lot of times when I see the new designers, they are trying to really think about what the business is selling, and that's not the most successful strategy. You really need to think about what the business is about, what the core values of the business are. And that's where you go back to your adjectives and the customer base and the client profile. So we talked a little bit about timeless. So Coca-Cola, obviously, I talked about this last week, but Coca-Cola is a timeless logo. And all you really need to do is pair it next to the Pepsi logo to see that. So, if you create a timeless logo, it'll just transcend. And this particular logo has barely changed since 1885. So that tells us that's a very timeless design. McDonald's, same thing. They really haven't changed their logo too significantly. And if you look at the symbol, it's describable, effective without color, memorable, and scalable. It reminds us of those golden French fries as well, those delicious French fries that are so horrible for us. And here it is in its full glory, with red being kind of a contrasting color to the yellow. So you have an option to design different types of logos. So you can design a word mark, which is a word or name based logo like Coca-Cola, a pictorial combination logo like World Wildlife Foundation, Shell. And notice Shell isn't a gasoline pump. It's an abstracted symbol, but it's talking about the values of the company, or the perceived values of the company. An emblem logo, which is this one down here, and that's a logo kind of constrained in a shape. A lettermark logo like IBM, CK, or H&M. An abstract logo, which is conceptual or symbolic, and then you can use optional text to pair it with, or then a character logo, like a logo with an illustration or character. Sometimes that can be really appropriate depending on what the business is trying to communicate. So you've all done this part. You've analyzed and you're thinking about your sketches. You've developed a list of attributes and characteristics that best represent your company. And at this stage, brainstorming, it's all about experimentation. So every thought and idea is relevant at this stage. You want to go in as many different directions as you can. Often I'll see new designer sketches, and they find a good idea, and then they just kind of slightly vary it, and they keep drawing that same idea over and over again because they're excited about it, and that idea kind of sticks with them. But at this ideation stage, you need to force yourself to go in as many possible different directions as you can. Then the next stage is to take the strong ideas and then do different variations of them to find out what the best solution would be. So for example, if you're going to use a font that already exists, what I would really recommend is really mixing it up and doing side-by-side comparisons. So you put the text in so many different ways, and then you look and you analyze and you ask advice and you think about those core concepts, and you look at the text as shape, thinking about what it's actually communicating. Is it standing alone? Is it interesting? Is it simple? Those are all things to kind of think about as you determine which one is the best solution. And remember, you guys have to come up with a text solution and a graphical solution, and then a combo mark of some sort. So you're turning your ideas into form, and think of ways to visually represent the most important attributes using symbols and icons. Explore fonts, look for formal, geometric, and formal relationships using typography and individual letters. And then we will jump into color eventually, but that's going to happen next week, and that will be really exciting because we'll learn about color theory and we'll think about color and how it relates to our product. And final execution, that'll be kind of the third step, where you have a great logo design, it's one clear concept, and you're doing the final revisions. You might be reworking tiny details. This is where the client comes in and you really make sure that everything is perfect for them. And you apply the final touches and prepare the logo for the public. And sometimes you even do this mock-up where you'll put the logo on different products to just see what it looks like. And that kind of really helps the client visualize how this is going to market them and brand them in the community. So choose 3 of your sketches to expand on. It should be the word mark, the combo mark, the mark. And then you're going to really still brainstorm, but you're going to commit. So you commit to the 3 designs, but you still want to do some compare and contrasting. You want to mix it up. When you we're going to vectorize all of our sketches in class or online. You can come to the Friday class and do that with me. And then you can tweak them as you kind of work in Illustrator, and change them, make one word a little bolder, one word more transparent. You can change how big the symbol is, where the symbol is in proximity to the text. And so these are all things that we can do once we vectorize our best grayscale solutions, our best sketches. And then we will go ahead and add color to our designs eventually. And here's the final design, and you have to think, where is it going to be? It's going to be for sure in a business card for the purposes of the class, but you also think it might be on their website, it might be on the side of a product, and how will that look? Okay, so we're thinking about our sketches, we're developing good grayscale solutions, and we're going to get our 3 leading ideas into the computer. And then we're going to do 3 distinct versions, but we're still going to brainstorm at this brainstorm simple design solutions or simple small adjustments to the grayscale design. So you're going to change it, mix it up, and do side-by-side comparisons. So here's version 2, and here's version 3. And that's kind of what yours should look like. You can do several different logos on one page, and then you will upload these for peer review. And then here's the final color solution, and here it is in the business card with the business card design. And here's last semester, I had a student who did a coffee shop, and she came up with 3 nice solutions. So she had kind of a combo mark, just a mark, and then a final solution. So that's kind of where we're going, and I'm really excited to see what you guys come up with your grayscale mock-ups this week. So before we end the lecture, I wanted to talk a little bit about a famous logo, the Prudential logo. And Prudential is an insurance company that has a long history. And as the look of graphic design changed over the decades, so did their logo. And as we look back over the 10 different styles shown here, we can begin to see the trends of graphic styles in action. And we're going to be talking more and more about design history. And so this is kind of exciting to look at this development of this particular logo, or at least it's fun for me. So here's the first logo done in 1860, and you can see how incredibly decorative that logo is. It's framed by this illustrated frame that's so ornate, kind of has an Art Nouveau feel about it maybe. And then they kind of frame it in a circle here, but they're putting so much text in there. It's almost like an advertisement. They still have their tagline, the Rock of Gibraltar, but they're putting as much information as they can. Ages 1 to 70, both sexes, life insurance, amounts, 15 to 50,000, which was probably a tremendous amount of money back then. And then they're kind of 20 years in. This is 1890. They have, they're proud of their product. They're proud of their business, which has probably grown significantly. And so they're talking about their founder here, and they're still putting their Prudential, the strength of Gibraltar in there, and they're a pioneer of industrial insurance in America. So they want to kind of bring forward their history, their success, who they are. They're very established. And then you can see how they quickly start to change. They start to kind of simplify that mountain there. That negative space becomes stronger inside of the mountain with the text kind of overlaying the black, and the white, the simple white negative space around the mountain becomes more visible. And then they still have quite a bit of text in there, but as they kind of go forward, they're going to lose that text. Here they do kind of a redesign. You can think, oh, they were brainstorming different strategies and they decided to put it into a rectangular frame, but that actually didn't last too long. They continued to simplify the mountain, and then they brought back the circle. So this was the 1950 version of the logo. And then as you go into 1970, you can see that they started to abstract it even more. This is now a very well-established company. It's been around for over 100 years. They don't need to put anything here for people to recognize this product. And they simplify it even more, so it becomes these abstracted lines within the circle. And then they kind of take it back. I wonder what motivated this, but they do a little bit nostalgic turnaround here, and maybe that simplification wasn't as successful, so they bring back the mountain a little bit. But you see that it's just enclosed in a circle, simple, negative, positive. That Rock of Gibraltar has always consistently been their thing that kind of is important to them with identifying who they are as a company. And so that's really something that you should strive for with any business, to figure out who are they, or who do they want to be identified as.